Hello, welcome to the podcast Spinal Moves, a Canadian series about activity-based therapy, an intervention used to improve recovery for people with spinal cord injury. I'm your host, Anita Kaiser. Today we will be talking about research taking place at KITE Toronto Rehab, University Health Network, and Praxis Spinal Cord Institute that is focused on describing the clinician's perspective of activity-based therapy in the neuroreadaptation and community setting. Our first guest today is Hope Jervis Rademeyer. Hope is a physiotherapist and PhD candidate in rehabilitation science at the University of Toronto. Her research is focused in activity-based therapy and technology in a hospital setting. Welcome to the podcast, Hope.
Hi, Anita.
Hi. So, Hope, I always find it fascinating to hear people's stories on how they became interested in their field of work. Can you share with us a little bit about how you first became interested in the field of activity-based therapy?
Sure. So I was actually interested in learning more about how technology could help people living with spinal cord injury for my PhD. And then as I learned more about specific technologies, I realized that not only do you need to find the most appropriate piece of technology to help someone use therapy, but you also need to find what is the best type of therapy for people for their rehabilitation. So for individuals with spinal cord injury, that best type of therapy that has a lot of evidence behind it is actually activity-based therapy. I actually went to the Activity-Based Therapy Summit in 2019, and that's where I learned a lot more about activity-based therapy, and it piqued my interest. And now I realized that it's not only about technology, it's about pairing it with that right type of rehabilitation.
Well, that's really interesting. And so, you mentioned technology, and obviously that's from your bio. I know it's mentioned as your specific area of interest. So can you give us a bit of an overview about the research that you are currently engaged in?
Sure. So the piece of research that I do that's more specific to ABT and technology takes a look more at the if, how, and why therapists use ABT with or without technology to rehabilitate people with spinal cord injury in hospital settings. So these hospital settings can include acute care, inpatient, or outpatient settings. So at this point, I should also clarify what I mean by technologies. There is a continuum of technology from low technology to high technology. So low technology would be simple technology, like if a therapist uses a mat or a ball to help an individual rehabilitate. Medium technology would involve something like a motor, so maybe a wheelchair treadmill or bodyweight support treadmill without the computerized components. And then high technology would be that same equipment, only with a digital or computer component added. So another example might be an exoskeleton. For me personally, I'm more focused on medium to high technology pieces because most hospitals and inpatient, outpatient settings have very simple pieces of technology. So I'm more interested to see those higher medium level pieces that they have and how it works with ABT and therapy.
So that's really interesting. So what are some of the things that you learned?
Yeah, so I basically interview a lot of therapists across the country. And some things that I've learned is it's not necessarily the cost of equipment and the staffing and the time that it takes to set up the equipment, because those are all barriers that a lot of therapists face in their day-to-day rehabilitation before we add activity-based therapy and technology. But I did find that there's a lot of interest, and it's just simply some sites have more access to ABT training equipment. They're linked to research sites, and some sites might be more remote. They don't have access to these things. So a lot of it is actually about trying to, but just linking therapists and centers together so they have those resources, whatever they need to engage in activity-based therapy and use technology if it's appropriate.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. So were there any unexpected surprises, things that you weren't expecting to learn that you found during the course of your interviews?
Yes. So I actually conducted all of the hospital inpatient, outpatient interviews first. And then I moved to the interviews where I talked to therapists in acute care settings. So one question that I asked was, okay, what ABT and or technology do you use at your site? And for all of the hospital settings, the answer was yes. They gave me a wonderful list of all the equipment they had. And in the acute therapy center, the person said no. And then there was a great pause in my interview where I didn't know what to say, because I was really expecting that everyone had the technology and the means to use activity-based therapy. But what I found is in an acute care setting, people are so busy, or therapists rather, are so busy that they're mitigating things like this person can't breathe. Cardiorespiratory function is so important. Things like pressure sores, that's so important. So you have to work on all those emergency safety factors first, and then we can worry about ABT. And maybe it's more of an education piece. Maybe you can incorporate it yet. Some centers you can. So that was a really interesting and very surprising answer to my question.
Yeah, it makes us realize that maybe something that we need to consider with activity-based therapy is what's the appropriate setting. And maybe acute therapy is really just too early for most individuals. They're just dealing really with acute issues with their health following a spinal cord injury. And this is really something that's more for rehab and then community once they're discharged.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that it's very individualized. Some individuals are ready for that therapy, but maybe therapists just don't have the time, or individuals experiencing other things where maybe they want to do activity-based therapy, but we have to take care of other stuff first.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And it may be like what you said, where it's really just a time to introduce the concept of activity-based therapy in acute stage and maybe philosophy behind it so that they're ready once they reach rehab. So what are your plans for sharing your findings?
I'm going to be sharing my findings through typical channels, so posters, journal articles, and also through the ABT community of practice and ABT expos and things like that.
Okay. And what's the impact that you hope your research will provide?
Well, based on what I've learned so far, my only hope is really to educate those therapists and individuals with spinal cord injury who don't know about ABT, or those who want to learn more. And I just really want to encourage them to try it. And I want to encourage those who do know a lot about ABT and who do have the resources to support those who are learning or who don't know much about it.
Yep, that sounds good, because especially with this type of field, I think that's going to be the first steps, is to get it out there. So what are your next steps with your research?
I'm not entirely sure. So I think that there are important gaps to be filled, like what technology, either low or high, fits best with ABT, clinical guidelines, and then just helping therapists to network with each other about it and think about training. So I think we're still in those kind of early phases. And I think there's a lot of work to be done. I'd just like to help support it any way I can.
That's great. So one of the things that I find really interesting too, Hope, is that you come from the lens of both being a clinician as well as a researcher. And I'm curious how you feel that this has influenced or shaped the way you conduct your research and the research process, or you maybe the types of research questions that you're asking.
The biggest influence that this has had on my research is that initially I was looking to be a quantitative researcher and to look at the numbers and the data and to see all of those things with my research. And then I got into discussions, and then I thought, well, I need a qualitative piece to my research. So I started interviewing therapists about ABT. And then my research has actually taken a turn. So my research focuses mostly on qualitative research now. So I found that as a researcher, it's changed me from asking those quantitative questions to really wanting to get to know more in depth and more in detail, how can we help people to use this type of therapy? How can we help educate them about this type of therapy? Those are really, really interesting questions. And that in the end will get people to use the technology that fits best with them. And it will get them to use ABT with or without technology if it is suited to them, because now we know in depth the reasons why they should use it or why they shouldn't, or what their opinions are.
Right. Yeah. I could see, there is really such an advantage to doing a mixed methods research approach, because you can get the quantitative data that you may need, but getting that qualitative perspective really helps to enhance and enrich the data. And I think often bring a lot of meaning to data that you're collecting. Okay, Hope. So there's one last question that I have, and I think it's just more of a question I just want to get your opinion on really is that activity-based therapy is really just a growing field. And I think one of the things that the scientific community is really trying to look at is trying to build capacity. So how can we encourage more students to take an active interest in this field of study as a career path?
I think ultimately you want to get this education into the university programs. However, I understand that there's a lot of material. Everyone wants to do this, so it's really difficult unless you have a professor who is an expert in spinal cord injury and spinal cord injury rehab. The best way right now might be to present lunch and learns to students or Zoom meetings right now in the current climate. So they have an opportunity to learn more from an individual with lived experience is very important and very eye-opening. Other therapists, we also have the neuroscience group within the Canadian Physiotherapy Association, different provincial groups that could come to talk to students. And I think that's where you spark that interest.
Yeah, definitely. I think it has to start from that stage so we can bring new researchers into the field right from the beginning. And then that way we can go from there in terms of building our research base and network and seeing what the potential is for this type of practice. So thanks very much, Hope, for coming today and sharing your knowledge and expertise and the work that you've been doing. It's really interesting, and we're looking forward to see what the next steps are with your work. Our next guest is Lovisa Cheung. Lovisa is a physiotherapist and PhD candidate in rehabilitation science at the University of Toronto. Her research is focused in activity-based therapy for individuals with spinal cord injury. In her leisure, Lovisa is a dog mom who enjoys camping, hiking, and training in the sport of Olympic weightlifting. Welcome, Lovisa.
Thank you.
So the first question I have is, how did you first become interested in activity-based therapy?
All right, so this is a great question. I first learned and became interested in activity-based therapy during my Master's of Physical Therapy degree. So one of the requirements of my degree was to complete a research project. And so the topic my group and I were assigned was activity-based therapy. So when I first heard about ABT, I had no idea what it was. I thought it was, really any type of physical therapy, something related to focusing on functional movements. But as much as this may have been at least partially true, I didn't know that it was so much more than that. I didn't know that this was a specific type of therapy that only some facilities provided, that there are components to ABT, and that there's a lot of different techniques and equipment that could be used to deliver it. And so as I engaged in my research on ABT, I progressively came to know how truly awesome it is, and that it really makes a big difference in people's lives, both physically and mentally. And so it just becomes very interesting to study how people see it and how we can deliver this more easily to people who need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you mind telling us a little bit more about some of the research that you're working on?
Yeah, so far I've completed 2 studies on ABT. So the first one was looking at the perspectives of individuals with spinal cord injury on ABT. So we interviewed individuals with spinal cord injury who had engaged in ABT and asked some questions about their experiences with the therapy. And that includes things like facilitators and barriers to accessing ABT in the community. And the second study that we looked at was investigating the perspectives of clinicians on ABT in the community. So we interviewed clinicians from community-based facilities across Canada that delivered ABT. And so we asked them questions about the technologies and the techniques used in ABT, as well as their perceived facilitators and barriers to providing ABT for those with spinal cord injury. So we really got this overarching, multifaceted perspective on the therapy from both people who deliver it and also the people who receive the therapy.
Right. So what are some of the things that you learned through your interviews that you did?
I learned a lot. So basically, most of the things that I've learned about ABT were through my interviews and throughout this whole process of the studies. So just to sum up a few points, I guess the first thing was I was just really impressed with the degree of variation across the board in how ABT was delivered. So clinicians would use varying amounts of technology, hands-on techniques, and conventional gym equipment in their sessions. And And the therapy really depended on the clinician, like their backgrounds and their preferences, but it also really depended on the clients they were treating, and what they presented with, what their goals were, and more. So that was one really big thing that I learned. And also another thing, there were a few principles that was consistent across clinicians, and these included using interventions below the level of injury, emphasizing weight-bearing activities, striving to get as many repetitions of a movement as possible, and encouraging mental effort on the part of clients. And so these are really important findings from my interviews because, even though clinicians describe using these in their sessions, I really do think these principles can and should be applied to other types of therapies as well for people with spinal cord injury. And so doing that may facilitate neurological recovery in other means as well.
Yeah, so sounds like there's some really sort of surprising or unique things.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear which parts you found were the most surprising, but I think before that, I'm just curious, do you find the way they were describing ABT to be unique or different from conventional rehab and therapy that's provided currently to patients?
For sure. I really do think it is unique and it is different from how therapy is usually given to people with spinal cord injury. And so it's really important to explore how important it is and how different it is and what makes this therapy distinguished from those and how we can kind of hash out those details and, make therapy easily accessible for those people and applying those principles across the board. Even if it may not be ABT specifically, maybe we don't talk about it as ABT, but if we even take some of those principles and some of those ideas and concepts and apply it across the board, that could even really change the trajectory of how, neuro rehab goes in the future.
And you mentioned too, you had said something about the broad range of activities. Can you just talk a little bit more maybe about that?
Yeah. So when we were interviewing clinicians on the types of techniques and equipments that they used, none of them had a specific technique or approach that was consistent with everyone else. The consistency was the fact that there was inconsistency in how it was delivered. And so some people may have decided to use more hands-on techniques, more plinth-based exercises, whereas some people may have been a bit more preference towards using more equipment and more technologies and things like that. And, of course, people had different amounts of those, whether they used both, more of one, more of the other, combinations of both. So there was really huge variation in that. And so it was dependent on, what those clinicians were comfortable with and their preferences. But a huge thing that people emphasized was that it really depended on what the clients wanted and what they were comfortable with and what their goals were. So that goal-oriented, client-centered approach was something that was very unique. And I think that should really be applied to many other settings as well and other therapies.
Yeah, and I can see when it's tailored to their preference as well, it would probably also keep them motivated and interested in continuing because they're doing what they want to do and what they're interested. And I would assume also probably where they see themselves having the most benefit.
For sure. And it's really important for clients to know that their clinicians are very focused on what they want and the goals are client-centered, not necessarily clinician-centered. As much as you do have therapeutic goals, it really depends on, and it all depends on what the client wants.
That's great. So what are you hoping will be like the impact of the research that you've done now?
So that's a big question. I guess if I were to sum it up, the main goal of my research is to help make effective therapies as accessible as possible to the people who need them. So the first step is figuring out which therapies are even effective, whether that be performing interviews, so that's what I did, performing intervention studies, looking through the literature and things like that. So of course, you can't just stop there, right? You know that things are effective, but what's the point of finding a great therapy or technique if the people who need it don't or can't use it? So this is where I really feel like it needs work, where research needs work. And so we really need to bridge that gap between research and clinical practice. So that accessibility piece is super important because that's a huge hurdle in research. And that's why it's so important to share findings of research, do conferences, presentations, and papers, but also through more casual means like this podcast, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's so many different avenues of directions that you can sort of branch into? What are your plans for next steps? And is part of that including what you're planning to do for your PhD?
Yeah. So the most immediate steps would be getting our manuscript published, both manuscripts actually, and helping out with this podcast. But in the longer term, I, really do think education is a huge missing piece in our puzzle right now. So kind of my goal is to really help in educating people in activity-based therapy, whether that be, educating individuals with spinal cord injury, that this type of therapy exists, right? So, some people stated that they wish they heard about ABT earlier, and they learned about it through word of mouth and other means, but not from, their healthcare providers. So I can just imagine how awareness would be so much greater if healthcare professionals such as physios or doctors could tell people more about this therapy in the hospital setting. And also, working towards educating other healthcare professionals, especially those providing therapy for individuals who just experienced a spinal cord injury, so to accurately inform them of their recovery potential. So yes, we want to keep expectations realistic, but we also want them to know that, recovery is possible. And lastly, to educate clinicians, whether in the hospital or in the community, that this type of therapy exists as well. So perhaps that could address the issue of a lack of facilities providing ABT. And that would hopefully further facilitate that shift from, that compensatory approach to that remediative approach. So even applying some of those principles from ABT would help facilitate that neuro recovery.
That's great. So which one are you planning for you to tackle for your PhD?
Oh, it's hard. I really think that clinician role is really important. And, I don't think that only applies to activity-based therapy, but a lot of other therapies as well. And some people who, especially for those who just recently experienced an injury, they're just bombarded with a lot of different overwhelming emotions and a lot of thoughts, and they have so much information thrown at them. So I could understand how, we may not want to tell people about all the things that they could be doing right away. So it's really figuring out how we could best educate people in a way that's most easily received. So I guess also related to my projects beyond ABT, I am also interested in investigating how sport plays an impact on those with spinal cord injury, whether it be physically, mentally, or socially. And I can imagine that sport and activity-based therapy share a lot of similar barriers, whether that be related to transportation, availability of programs or facilities, or awareness. So I'm hoping that what I learned from the project can help inform ways to increase accessibility and other means of increasing awareness of ABT. But at the same time, the same is also very true vice versa. So, what I've learned from my work in ABT has really given me a valuable perspective when studying accessibility to sports post-spinal cord injury. And so I'm going into these future projects with an understanding of types of barriers people generally report, especially in the community. So my work exploring activity-based therapy gives me a good taste of what accessibility even is, and how we can apply those concepts to other therapies as well. So there's lots to be done, but education is really, really important and a big, it could be a hurdle, but can also be, our greatest blessing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think because this is such a new field, I think that education awareness aspect is really probably going to be one of the first steps that we would need to really look at to pursue the field forward, and then to really start looking at getting it implemented into practice. So I'm going to be watching you and looking out to see some of the great work that's going to be developing in the future. And yeah, looking forward to seeing that. So thanks very much, Lovisa, for joining our podcast and sharing your research with us. Our final guest is Dr. Cindy Gauthier. Dr. Gauthier is a physiotherapist and postdoctoral fellow in the SCI-Mobility Lab at the KITE Toronto Rehab University Health Network. Her research is focused in studying the effects of electrical stimulation during functional activity and activity-based therapy trainings amongst individuals with spinal cord injury. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Gauthier.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
So I just want to, been asking, some of the other guests already on the podcast, but I'm just really interested to hear how you first found out about activity-based therapy.
Okay, so actually I found out about ABT, activity-based therapy, years ago when I was a student in physical therapy program. So I met a boy. He was about maybe 16 or 17 at that time. And he had a high-level cervical spinal cord injury. And he moved from France to Boston to go to Journey Forward to do ABT for a year. And after that, he moved to Montreal and he wanted to continue ABT at home. So he hired me and someone else. And I was going there once a week to train him for I think it was 3 hours. So we were doing 2 hours of ABT, moving the legs, even if he was completely paralyzed, doing a bunch of stuff with the new step and many things. So he taught me all the principle, the kind of exercise, the kneeling position and everything, all the principles. And we were doing also the FES bike. So it's the first time I saw and used the FES bike at that time.
So obviously you got excited by what you saw with it, but what made you decide to take that leap from, providing therapy in ABT to actually doing research in ABT?
Yeah. So after I work in clinic, I own my own clinic and I was working with patients with neurological disorder. And I was doing kind of ABT a lot because when in the community, there's functional goals, but it's also training, well-being, and just maintaining what they are able to do. So many stories of benefits of ABT and focusing on neurorecovery, not just that, but mixing that with, for sure, functional goals. As I'm a physio, I work on functional goals most of the time, but adding the ABT principles, I also saw all the psychological well-being benefits, the regain of hope. So it's why I wanted to learn a bit more about all the benefits, how it works really, and also all the psychological aspect of that.
Right, because that's just as important in many ways, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So much. Yeah, it's so important. And you have to have well-being, in both, mental health and general physical health. Both are the same important. And ABT, I think it target both of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So also another point that why I wanted to study that, it's I saw a lot of skepticism in the clinics, and I totally understand that because I was very skeptical when I first learned about ABT and knowing the benefits and seeing the benefits after that. So seeing that, I wanted to also understand more what are the gaps and what are also the perspective of everyone, every stakeholders, the clinicians, the patient, the medical field, and where we can address that. And because there is a lot of expectation. As a clinician, we expect people they will react this way, or we don't want to do something because it might impact this in that way. So it was a lot of the discussion we had between clinicians, and it's not exactly what people were telling me as a clinician. So it's nice that we did a study about knowing what are the perspectives, how each group see ABT and wants ABT to go forward.
Right. So would you like to share a little bit about some of the research that you've been working on?
Yes, of course, it would be a pleasure. So I work on the community part. So I interviewed clinicians in the community that were providing ABT to people with spinal cord injury.
Yeah, so I think it's probably similar to the work that Lovisa was describing to us, but I understand that your participants were both English and Francophone.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Can you give us a bit more information about that and maybe what the difference was between, or if there were any differences between your interviews between them and the information that they were providing?
So I have to say there was not much of the difference. I didn't see a lot of difference, even between provinces, about ABT. People, the only difference I will say that I saw is the level of knowledge and experience about ABT. It's not more French or English in neither a specific province. It's just a matter of if they seek for external training, if they were using ABT for a long time, and also their background training. So I feel that kinesiologists and trainers were a bit more trained and knowledgeable about ABT than physios and OTs. And it's also because what we learn at school, ABT is not exactly what we learn. We learn that there's a plateau, that you have to work more on compensation. So we have that in mind. So it's hard sometimes to look outside of the box and seek for other type of therapies and be inventive, creative in a way. And we are focusing a lot on function. So ABT, there's a lot of activities that are not, if you look at them, they are not functional. Like crawling on the floor, it's not necessarily functional. If you don't have toddlers at home, it's not necessarily functional. So, but kids, it's more, they can, I feel, and it's a bit what they were seeing and also describing the kind of exercises that they were doing. So those were more the differences that we saw in the results.
Yeah, so there's one thing that you just mentioned now, and it sounds like probably an important thing that we need to look at doing if we want to move the field forward is looking at behavior change among therapists. And even it might need to start right from school.
So it's very difficult, to change that. And what I was saying also, I saw in the discussion with the clinicians also, there is also a way, as clinicians, we don't want to do any harm to people. And something that came a lot, it's not exactly in that population, but also the people and the clinician in the rehabilitation and site. And for my own experience, it's we think that people will have false hope, too much expectation, that they will be psychologically hurt if we make them walk, for example, and they cannot walk. And this is something that is very present. And so if I touch their legs, if I train their legs, but the prognosis, it's bad, it's dark, will they be badly affected or affected in a negative way? This is something that we also, the mentality is that, and it's something that can be changed. And I hope with the project and the interview with the people who experience the activity-based therapy also show that it's not the case. And in my own practice, I also saw that it's not the case. So all this has to be done previously, because it's the clinicians that stop sometimes the application of ABT because of our own perspective of what can be, and we want to protect sometimes our patient, but it's not always the case.
Right. I think, when you talk about hope and the whole idea of giving false hope, I think really it comes down to just managing expectations and being really upfront and honest from the beginning that ABT has a lot of potential for neuro recovery, but we really don't know. It's very varied depending on the individual, the level and severity. And so just laying it out there, I think from the beginning to let them know that we'll work hard, but there's no guarantee, right?
And you're so right. And also it comes to knowledge, because ABT, it's not just neuro recovery. It's all the rest. And all the rest is very, very, very important. It's general health and well-being. It's moving. It's reducing spasticity. It's bone health. It's just feeling empowered. They can go out of their wheelchair. They can crawl, even if their legs are not functional. Just being standing for someone who not stand, seeing themselves standing. There's a lot of benefits for most people. Doing stimulation on the legs to have circulation, to have a lean mass that will prevent a pressure. All this, it's our benefits, but it's not something that we learn at school either. So I think not like education and having increased the knowledge about that will also make clinicians feel more confident to bring that to patient with the right expectation. So not saying you will walk again and we will work on making your legs walk again. We will work on keeping you fit, keep your lean mass well, so you will have less pressure sore, keeping your spasticity low, keeping your circulation well. All this, like this is, and this way I feel like people will be more confident. It is the way I'm still talking about ABT and proposing ABT to people because it's important not to do any false hope for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, moving away from that whole notion of false hope and really looking towards, like you said, it's realistic hope, right? Yeah. With providing those expectations or managing really those expectations. So that's great. And, I have a saying that I've been using over the last several years now, and it's that rehab never ends. Yeah. Before it was someone's in acute care and then follow through into rehab for a few months, and then you're out in the community and that's it. You just go on with your life. But yep, I'm recognizing more and more that, there's always that opportunity to grow and develop.
Yeah. But like, I see a little bit like that, like, I train, like I do physical activity, but someone in a wheelchair or someone, they need kind of a specialized trainer. And if you can add function in that, it makes sense. It's for everyone. But I feel like when you're in rehab, you don't see that this way, but it's maintaining, it's life, it's ongoing, taking care of yourself and your body, and it never ends. And you're right.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I know you're almost finishing up your fellowship. So what are your thoughts now for yourself moving forward?
So I'm going back in Quebec, where I come from, but not the city, but like I will be near Montreal. So I will have my own practice with the people with neurological disorders. So I will do that. I really hope I will be able to do a lot of ABT and eventually have centers. There's not much so in the community. So I really want to be able to offer a solution or places where people can go train and have specific and specialized rehab and training. So give them that opportunity. And I want to stay in research. I will be involved with praxis for sure, because it's a topic I really, really love, and it's important for me. So I want to be a part of that change in Canada. I think it's really nice that we are like moving forward with ABT, and that I also to see like all the engagement of center across Canada. It's so nice to see that. So I really want to be part of this, and to continue to do research.
So it's really nice to see that you're still looking to continue with activity-based therapy, and I think you're going to be setting the example for us now going forward of implementing research into practice, because you're really looking at still holding both sides, which is really great to see. So I think my last question for you really is, what would you say to students or even fellow researchers who are considering pursuing research in this field of ABT?
This is a very interesting question. I have two things to say. I think the first one is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the resistance and maybe sometimes swimming against the wave. And we say like to change the behaviors, to change things, it takes time. And when you're the first one, or like when you're in the first group who want to change something, there's unfortunately a lot of resistance, and it's understandable. There's also the rules at a specific site. There's our beliefs. There's our training. So you have to go not against that, but like to find a way to people that they will want to follow you. So it can be a bit difficult. I experienced that myself when I was a clinician and I was doing ABT. So they reported that they had a lot of resistance and sometimes like backlash from the rehabilitation field. And it was difficult, but they persisted. And now some reported that the relationship is way better and that they work together. And I'm pretty sure with the community of practice and praxis, it will change. So I hope they will not experience that. But if they do, don't be afraid. Just continue. And we have to adjust for sure the way we present things. And we have to understand the other part. But it's okay when we bring up new things, we will experience resistance. And it takes time. But now you see, there's a community of practice. And the other thing I said it before, but thinking outside of the box, it's one thing that I will suggest them, not to be afraid to think outside of the box and look at maybe what others are doing, other fields. When you do that, you expand to a whole new world, like an infinite world of possibility. And ABT, it's a bit that. In the interviews, we saw how clinicians are so creative and they are doing so many things, different things. And some were not using technology, some were using technology, and they were creating their own exercise or positioning with all the principle of ABT. But for that, you have to think outside of the box. It's not things that we necessarily learn at school. So doing that, it will help for sure for designing research and finding new ways of doing ABT and new treatments. And I'm really grateful that many years ago, I didn't calculate how, the boy I was training, he challenged my beliefs and he challenged me and helped me to open my mind and think outside of the box. And I'm grateful for that. And I thank him because I would maybe not have been here today. So I want to, I would like others to do the same if it's possible, to open their mind a little bit and be part of the change.
Well, that's a great message of hope to leave off on for, students and people looking to get into the field moving forward. So thank you very much, Dr. Gauthier, for your time. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for listening. Our next show will be hosted by Jervis Rademeyer and feature 3 guests who will describe how technology can be used to help achieve intensity for activity-based therapy. Speaking of tuning in, you can link to Spinal Moves and get more information about ABT and the Canadian Community of Practice at praxisinstitute.org. Or you can also listen to Spinal Moves on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other popular platforms. This series is sponsored by Praxis Spinal Cord Institute, a Canadian-based not-for-profit that leads global collaboration in spinal cord injury research, innovation, and care. Special thanks to the Saskatchewan Centre for Patient Outreach. Spinal Moves was created by Jervis Rademeyer, produced by Jervis Rademeyer, Praxis Spinal Cord Institute, and Anita Kaiser. The information provided on Spinal Moves is of a general nature and cannot substitute for the advice of a medical or healthcare professional. The opinions expressed on the show are solely that of the host and the individual contributors. None of the individual contributors, system operators, developers, sponsors of Spinal Moves, nor anyone else connected to Spinal Moves can take any responsibility for the results or consequences of any attempt to use or adopt any of the information presented through this podcast.